Hey, check it out, it's Jan 1/3 of MediaShinobi, and unfortunately, due to schedule conflicts, Scott and Chris couldn't be here today. So I'm going to be personally reviewing episode 23 of Sword Art Online entitled Bonds. So this episode starts off literally where last episode ended. Suguha is just confessing every single detailed emotion of what she's experiencing right now to Kazuto. And all that Kazuto can do at this point is say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna meet you in the game and hopefully I see you there and work things out. I believe Kazuto did the right thing at this point because, you need to give her some space, some time, let her reassess her emotions, and hopefully everything goes back to normal. And before he even said all that, all of that, if you take a step back, Kazuto was experiencing like a brief inner monologue explaining the perspective between Suguha and himself, the relationship. And that inner monologue took us back into the past when Kazuto was at the age of 10. During that age, he already kind of questioned his place in the family. He already knew he wasn't directly related to them. And he was looking at Suguha saying like, do I even truly know you? And because of that train of thought, he kind of immersed himself into the world of virtual reality gaming. Basically, what Kazuto has learned throughout this entire experience is that it all comes down to perspective. That there really is no point in asking the question, what is true identity? Because that's just one perspective from one person. Everybody's gonna have a different opinion on anything. And he also went on to say that there's really no difference between virtual reality and reality in general, that the people will be the same. And it goes back to the previous statement I just said. Everybody's gonna have a different opinion. And when Kazuto regained his consciousness from Sword Art Online, he wanted to reestablish his relationship with Suguha. He really does treasure her. He wanted to show that he truly does care. I did not think they would make a social commentary about how the world or how relationship works in general. So when they did that, I was caught off guard. And to be honest, I was pleasantly surprised. Anyway, getting back on the topic, getting away from that philosophical stuff, Lifa, or aka Suguha, finally goes back into the game, and then that's where she meets Recon again. Apparently he escaped from the salamanders. And it's obvious that Lifa is still distraught from the entire situation that just came into play. But Recon sees this, and then he's like, you know what, you need to smile, you can't cry, you're not the same Lifa if you do. And I want to tell you right now that I'll never leave your side, that I'll always be by your side. And I love you. So he pretty much goes in for a kiss, and my initial thoughts were like, damn dude, direct? And then she actually responds back by punching Recon like in the gut, and then he falls on the stairs like for actually a long time. I was not expecting them to put that much emphasis on that particular scene. And because of that, she loosens up and she kind of says that, hey, you know what? I could learn a thing or two from you. So she pretty much decides to meet up with Kazuto. So Lifa finally finds Kazuto like in a battlefield with like pillars in the background. And she pretty much declares, let's duel. So they finally battle. And it was pretty cool, a few action scenes. But then Lifa does something very peculiar, at least in my opinion. She kind of tries to do a downward sword slash. But then she kind of lets go of it, and then she starts falling mid-air freestyle, followed by Kazuto catching her in the air, and then they do a spiral in the air in a very slow, dramatic-ish kind of way, and then they kind of had this literal moment of, why? I didn't really know how to respond to that, just because I thought it was so random. But you know what, I got over it, I disregarded it, and they finally started talking again, and they just accepted that the things are just the way they are. But Kazuto did give hope, like, you know what, maybe after I save Asuna, then maybe I'll reconsider, I'll think things through. After they reconciled with each other or whatnot, they decided to meet up with Recon back at the entrance for the World Tree. And they all decide to finally go into the World Tree and take them all on, just the three of them. So the battle begins, and Kazuto is being, once again, a badass. He's handling everything like a boss. However, just like last episode, he eventually gets overwhelmed by pretty much the raw number of soldiers just attacking him relentlessly, one after another. Even though he lasted a bit longer, it still was not enough. They were actually changing up the algorithm for how the enemy attacks you, they notice that, hey, Leafa and Recon are there as support for their magic to heal. Let's attack them. So something had to be done because they're obviously in trouble. And this is when Recon decided to step up his game. Recon also decided to use self-destruction magic in order to blow himself up and take as many soldiers along with him as possible. Now, interesting note, Leafa stated that it had dire consequences if you use self-destruction magic. So I'm curious to see what are the dire consequences. Well, obviously, if you die, you go back to your hometown, but there seemed to be more to this certain type of magic. So I would like to know, but they kind of disregarded it, so moving on. So Leafa is now by herself, and it seems like she was about to die, but then reinforcements came to play. The cat sits and the sylphs, if I'm pronouncing it right, or whatever, they came to help out Kazuto and Leafa because of what they did from the previous episodes, you know, help them out. So the numbers are now somewhat tied, you know, they're holding their own ground. Leafa decided to toss Kazuto her sword, and because of that, now his dual-wielding abilities come into play. Instead of hacking and slashing like he usually does with two swords, he decided to stack them together and then use it as a piercing drill to go through the ceiling, which is engulfed by all of the soldiers, and he managed to get through, and because of that, everybody else retreated, and Leafa is stating like, good luck, I hope you do it. So Kazuto finally made it to the ceiling, and this is where it got weird because the camera did a 180 rotation. Yui had to explain to Kazuto like, okay, this door isn't supposed to be closed because of the quest. It was closed to begin with because of the system's administrator. It was never meant to be opened by players. And at that point, I was like, really? Are you serious right now? That's not fair. Shortly afterwards, Kazuto kind of had like an epiphany. Kazuto remembers like, oh yeah, that's right, I have this card. Hey, Yui, use this card and tell me if you could do anything about it. Maybe it'll open the door. So the door opens and it works, and it starts to open. Kazuto and Yui get engulfed into white light. It fades out to white just as the soldiers try to close in, and then bam, done with the episode. So overall, I like this episode. You know, it's one of the better episodes in my opinion for this arc, Alfenheim Online. Alfenheim. It's a weird word. Action was pretty decent. It could have had a little bit more action in my opinion. Also, I'm gonna reference once again, I did like the fact that they added that little social commentary about how life and relationships work. You know, that's just my personal taste. I believe the drama aspect was settled a little bit too easily in my opinion, because and this is from my experience and what I've seen, when you're at that age, that's when people experience emotion intensely, and because of that, I was like, the fact that she was able to reassess her emotions within like an hour was very peculiar. I'm definitely looking forward to the next 2 episodes. You know, this is a 25 episode series and we're already finished with 23. So, you know, it's coming down to an end. So this also brings back a topic we mentioned on the last video. Since this series is ending, we do need a new series to review episode by episode. Preferably, it's around 13 episodes, so if you guys have any suggestions, don't forget to comment in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, check out our channel, MediaShinobi, for more videos. So, that's it. So, this is Jan on behalf of MediaShinobi. We're signing out.